All right, and we're gonna just start with the essentials first. What is your full name? So if you could give your full name
It is Diana Lynn Crawford.
and what where and when were you born?
I was born in Detroit on May 14th, 1951. And that was on Alfred Street and Chrysler now. Back then it was Hastings.
Okay. And what is your connection to the Black Bottom?
My family started with my grandmother, my grandfather. My father's side came to Detroit in 1926 when my daddy was 3 and moved on the east side, various places. 'Cause I also asked my grandmother where we lived. I know she said we lived before I was anywhere on the planet. The family lived on J Street, and that was one street I remember because I still see it where I'm living at now. And it was my father and his sister who was born in 1918. Father born in 1923. My auntie, his sister, older, she's born in 1918. Grandmother born in 1900. And I don't know when my grandfather was born, but I know my grandmother was born down south in Georgia. So that's how the Crawfords got here from down south up here on the east side.
Okay. And so when you lived, so you were born in Black Bottom. That was the
Yeah.
right there. Okay. So do you remember your address when you were living in the
I know it's on my birth certificate.
mm,
And it was on, like I said, the street was Alfred and the cross street was Hastings. So, and as a matter of fact, we moved from the east side of Hastings a long black block down to San Antoine. And that first brick row house is where we moved to, 2819 San Antoine, which is gone because of urban renewal.
mm,
So, but the other family members, they stayed together. So it was at least 3 other families: my grandmother, my father and mother, my auntie, my daddy's sister, and my auntie's daughter with her kids. So it was all squeezed in one upper flat. I remember that because we would go back and visit with them
okay.
when we moved on up to the Brewster Projects.
Which is still considered part of Black Bottom, correct?
It always has been because St. Antoine was part of it too. And then I went to school before the freeway, before Chrysler Freeway. I went to Bishop Elementary School and that kindergarten. But then only for like the first part of kindergarten. And then the Brewster Projects, they built a new school, Stephen Foster. And so I went there from kindergarten to the 6th grade. And that was on Bobian. Um, and I think the cross street may have been Division, but all that's gone too.
Did you have siblings?
I had two older sisters, and one went to Bishop and Miller. That was another school, which is still standing. My daddy went to Miller High School. It's not called Miller now. And then my older sister, she's born in 1941. She went to Miller too. And then my other sister, who was born in 1949, she and I both went to Bishop. But then when they built Stephen Foster, we transitioned over to Stephen Foster Elementary School.
Okay. So tell me the story about how I know you said you came from Alabama, but do you know the story of how
We
your,
came to Georgia.
I mean, Georgia, sorry. Do you know the story of what that migration process was, who came first? Can you tell me a story about um, what made them choose Detroit or yeah, why was it Detroit and where did they leave from and what you know about their past before they got here?
Okay, my grandfather and grandmother came here to have a better life and for their children themselves. They, from what I understand, they always live on the east side of Detroit, the Hastings Black Bottom area. I remember that my grandmother really never went back to Georgia, but um, my mother, who also came from Georgia, but she came as a teenager. She was younger than my father. She was born in 31. They met, but they never actually talked about what their experiences were. My grandmother did tell me she grew up on a plantation, and that's my grandmother lived with us. So, I would sometimes ask her things, and she said they had a wooden stove, but she would talk somewhat, but not a lot about that. And then I asked my father, who came, he was 3, and he was able to like let me know what was going on back then. Like the Purple Gang was big time when he was a little boy in the 20s. Um, and of course, they were here during the Depression. But again, as to why they left for just better opportunities. And like I said, my grandmother actually, she had 12 older brothers. She's the only girl. And that was typical back in 1900. And remember, she's the youngest. Oh, and her father, my great grandfather was a little boy during slavery. My grandmother told me about that. That my great grandfather was enslaved.
Oh,
He was a
wow.
little boy.
Mm.
So she did tell me that. What else? I remember that. Is there anything else from her? Basically, it just blew me away when she told me that. But because I'm not that far from the enslavement of our people.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting because we always say that it was 400 years ago, but really
oh,
it wasn't. It was
no,
400 years ago when it started,
that's true.
but it was in our generation. We can touch and feel people. Like
Yeah,
if I'm in my 50s or you're in your like if it ended 200 years ago, we would know people. We would know people who knew people.
that
And
is
so that
true.
is powerful about that. So yeah,
Mhm.
thanks for sharing that. So did they leave family behind that you visited?
I
In the-
never went to visit with my grandmother, her people per se, but she did take me and my sister, the one was born in 1949. She took us to Chicago, but we just stayed at the Sheraton. That was like, I was a teenager back in that time in the 60s. And her nephews would come to the Brewster Projects. I remember that since she was the only girl and she only had 2 children, those were her brother's kids. So I remember that. And they used to call her Aunt Jenny. My grandmother's name was Jenny Crawford. Really, Jenny Lynn Crawford. I'm Diane Lynn Crawford. So um, I do remember them coming through, meeting with her, coming to the family, and that, and she was always happy to see them because those were her nephews, her brother's children. So I do remember that. But I just don't remember her going back down south. But my mother would go all the time, but my grandmother, she didn't do it.
Okay. So what what was the Black Bottom community like? What was it like for you? I mean, you have a long memory because you were always there. So tell
Mhm.
me what feelings, when I ask you about what it's like, what growing up there felt like for you.
Safety, community, um, excitement, fun, just surrounded with community. Churches, we lived next to a church, I remember. Plus, it was a church across the street we would go to, a lot of churches. And then I remember going to the movies on Hastings Street, the Castle. That was a movie place. And we would stop at little confectionery stores. And my doctor's office was on Hastings Street, which later became Chrysler, the street.
Yeah.
Service Drive, the Chrysler Service Drive. I remember that. I remember it was a department store. I think was it Nisers. It was also on Hastings as well as the drugstore. Remember the drugstore? Because you would go in there and they would have like a scale. You jump on the scale, and if you put, I think, a penny in, they would tell your fortune and all that. I thought that was fun. And I remember that, the drugstore. But the main thing I remember from that living on the east side is Brewster Center. That was the hub. I remember that I was 6, but back in those days, you had to follow your sister because she was older than me. So I would go to Brewster with my sister. I couldn't participate in the class, but they knew people had to be with their sister because you had to be 6. And actually, I was 5. I wasn't 6. My sister was 7. So she learned all these dances, and we did the tap dance. I tap danced. We did modern dance, swimming. The Brewster Project kids, we could all swim because they're Brewster Center. And by the time I did turn 6, my sister was older. I knew all the dances because you had to sit there and watch them. So I thought I loved that. And we would be in programs too.
That's
So
me.
they would have, the community would come and we would do our little dances that the recreation center personnel taught us. So, and then it was still safe then too, in the early 50s. I remember that. I mean, did nobody want you? You could go on the playground, play. I said, nobody want you. We weren't in imminent danger or no people. They watched you, but they didn't have to like they do now. I mean, you from where I lived at, you could see the playground as well as Brewster Center. So no problems over there.
So would you say that you felt, I know the first thing you said when you said that was safety.
Yes,
Would you say it was the relationship with your neighbors? Did you know your neighbors? Who were they?
yeah. As a matter of fact, we just laugh about it now. Because a lot of the people who lived on Hastings Street in Alfred, they moved to the Brewster Projects too. So I remember the lady on the other side of the church down, she had a big black dog. And she said, really, it was a little dog. But when I was a little girl, it was a big dog. I think she said the name was Patsy. But her and my um daddy's sister, my auntie, the lady down the street with the dog, she and my first cousin, they were best friends. So I knew them. And then, like I said, we would go to church. My sisters, they would take me to church. I'm sitting in church looking at it. When I say little, I was little. So, and we moved into the projects, I did, he said, in February 1953. And I was 1, not turning 2 yet. I was like little, almost, but not there. So February. So we moved there in the wintertime.
So
But
before you were in the Brewster Projects, where
mhm.
was your house before you were, well, you wouldn't remember, but
No, but it
that,
was still the same. I will remember because it was 3 families in one house, and
oh,
we were
that's
the
right.
first to move out. And so then the other family, they moved out to the 14 stories because Brewster, my neighbor said that Brewster, when my father moved in, it was only 4 units of row houses. And it started from Mac going back to Winder. So they built from north to south Winder. And we were the first floor of the row house. But remember, they had 6-story buildings too. So she did tell me she knew me when we first moved in because I think she said my family, her family, and about maybe 4 other families, they moved in together. So they hadn't still finished building the projects, believe it or not, in the 50s.
Wow.
So, and they started it, the project, Eleanor Roosevelt, they had money for the people in the surrounding areas, east side, to move into public housing. That's what they called it. And in 1938, it's a picture of her with a shovel excuse me, 1935, and then it was completed. That is the first phase in 38. And we hadn't we didn't move there until 53. So those were the dark brick of the what they call it Brewster. Then we came, we were Brewster-Douglass, the red brick. We became Brewster-Douglass Projects. So it's just different phases, and they moved towards wider, moved towards going downtown. Lincoln Elementary School was across on Mac too. And it was we went to another church, I think Friendship, that was on Mac. And anyway, I just kind of remember I remember going to the Sunday school and all of that, walking up, we walked for the most part. We took the bus because we didn't have a car. So, but I remember, like I said, everything was just, you played, you had fun. If you didn't do right, they would whoop you. And that was normal because they were protective service and all the eyes were always watching the children. So you had to limit your activities because they
Mm,
didn't believe in, I mean, we couldn't fight. If you did, you were wrong because they didn't want you to fight, especially with even in the family, they didn't want you to fight, your sisters and brothers. So they didn't play that. Not only that, if we were playing with our dolls, I remember this in the Brewsters, and somebody's father came past, we had to stop with our dolls and say, hello, Mr. Jones, hello, Mr. Rickman. We didn't, we had to acknowledge the grown people, no matter what we were doing. So I remember that too.
mm. Do you remember what one of the movies you saw at the castle?
Um, that's at the castle, especially scary movies, and they scared the stuff out of me. Um, I remember at the castle, was it the castle? They had the black girls that were carnation pet milk or one of the condensed milks. They were like quants. Four of the same, four came out together. Not triplets, but quants.
Right.
I remember that. And they always, of course, they always had, you always saw three movies and you had cartoons, one price. I think when I went in the 50s was like 15 cents. So they give you a quarter and you could go to movies if they gave you that. And you could buy, I like Milk Duds and stuff like that, Chuckles, I didn't like. But, and then I remember they had a blue clock there. And then the movie, what movie did I see back then? Because that had been like 50s. Because my parents took us to the movies too. But back in the 50s, a good one that I saw, because it was always Westerns too. We always saw Westerns. Of course, poor struggling pioneers and the Indians bothering them, which I found out later was the opposite. But a good movie. I saw so many too. Because that was our treat. Of course, you had to go to church. That was a given.
The movies were on Sunday, so you went to church and then you went
First,
to
yeah, you had to go to
you had
church.
dinner, I'm sure,
Oh, well, yeah, my grandmother cooked everything. But
and then
you
off to the
couldn't
movie.
go to you couldn't go to movies, you didn't go to church. So that was out. And you had to put a little money in church. And then after that, as long as you went to church, you could go do other things, but you had to go to church. I mean, that was a given too.
So it was a foundation then of that community.
Oh yeah, we everybody went to church.
So the people that you saw in your community, did you also see them at your church?
School, church, yeah, because it was in the projects, like I said, Friendship Baptist Church, it had moved. Later, the churches moved, but we went to school together. Yeah, I saw their parents, I saw their cousins, I saw their aunties. Yeah, I saw all of that. And the cars were real big when I was little. I remember that. Big cars. And then, I mean, clunkers. And then they kind of like streamlined and got slimmer and not so clunky. I remember that.
So you said that you mentioned that you didn't have a car, so you took the bus
Mhm.
to church?
No, we walked to church because we were
Oh, right there.
Alfred. Yeah, you walked what 4 or 5 blocks, six. You walked anyway. Only time you maybe hit the bus is when you were going to go downtown or somewhere. But or a taxi. And that was later. But no, we walked everywhere until we got older. You
Okay.
would walk and playing outside. Um, what else? We always played in the summertime, but we played all year round, I'll tell you the truth. Because Brewster was the hub. We swam all year round. And then what we liked about going to Brewster, you could go to more than one swim period. They had with so many kids, they had to have periods. You go to first period, second period. They would give you you have to take a swimsuit. All you had to do was bring your towel for the most part. And then you had to bring a swim cap too. But they gave you a swimsuit, like a little tank top, gray. Everybody did that. And then our swim instructor, he taught us how to swim with a long pole, and he would get into the water and hold to the pole for a while, and then you would learn how to go deeper and deeper. So before I got to be, say, maybe 10, I was swimming in the deep, which was 6 feet plus, because that's what you did it every day. So you got good at doing it. And then he had the diving boards, upper and then the lower. So of course we liked both of them. And plus the older kids, it was like age grades. You hung around your age. I mean, if the big kids, older kids acknowledge you, then that was okay. But normally, when I was 12, I hung up with a 12-year-old. Your sister hung up with, my sisters hung up with their age grades. So, and then I love the clothing because they wore dresses. I mean, the idea too, but they were nice. My older sister went to the Greystone. I couldn't wait to go. Of course, when I wanted to go, it was gone. Duh. So,
Where did you get your clothing from? Did someone make it? Did you shop for it? Where'd you get your dresses from?
basically, I remember for shoes, elementary school, we went to Fife's, and that was off of Woodward and Adams on the west side. And then Winkleman's, those stores, Hudson's, which became Macy's, they were all on Woodward too. But I didn't do all that until I got older because my parents, they bought us shoes we didn't like, but you had to wear them. Uh, and we had kind of big feet in the Crawford family because my daddy wore 12 and my mother wore 9. So me and my sister had big feet, 10 and 11. And that was in sixth grade, I wore 10. My sister wore 11. So we had big feet. That's just how it was. But I want the cute little shoes, but they didn't look like that for my feet.
Right.
So and then they had, like I said, we would actually get money to go downtown on the bus, but we like to buy things. So we would walk downtown and we could buy things with our money we didn't spend on the bus. I mean, that we had more money walking, but they gave us walking money. I mean, bus money, but we wanted to eat on that money, so that's what we did.
Where did you go grocery shopping in Black Bottom?
Oh, grocery shopping, we had the Big Dipper, that was in the neighborhood off of Beaubien Street, between Beaubien and Brush Street. And but we always went to the Eastern Market. I remember in a little, like I wasn't even 5. My daddy held my hand and we would go to the Eastern Market. All that was where people went for fruits and vegetables. Chicken. They had a chicken place where you could go. They had live chickens. You could see them take the feathers, stuff off. I remember that too. That was on Russell Street near Gratiot. I mean, I guess I was little, but because food was cheaper then. And my daddy worked at Ford's Motor Company, so my mother worked too. My mother worked at different laundries around the city of Detroit. My grandmother, she stayed at home, so my grandmother was always at home. So, which is, my mother loved that, my daddy loved that. We loved it. She loved it. So it was good.
It sounded
But
like you had a really good working system, of care.
yeah, because
Care.
if you both parents working, who's at home? So my grandmother was at home and she's born 1900. My daddy born 1923, mother born in 1931. So it was always somebody at home. I
Mm.
did like that.
And did you have cousins that went there as well? So that
Of
met at
course,
your grandma's house?
like I said, remember how we moved first, and my cousins moved to the 14 stories next. And then we all finally went to the same elementary school, finally, and then the middle school, and then things changed because they moved in high school. But
Mm.
I was always an East Sider for schools. Spain junior high was built in 62. I got there in 63 and 12. I was 12. And then for high school, I went to Northeastern. So then college and everything.
So do you still like swimming?
I love how things have changed since I'm older. When I went to Coleman Young Rec Center, East Side too, it when I went swimming, that water would get in my ears. I don't remember that happening when I was a kid. But when I got older, even with a swim cap, I didn't have any ear issues. So I stopped because I had to clear my ears after I went swimming. I never did that when I was coming up.
So you
It,
might want to consider earplugs.
yeah, I did other things at the rec because I grew up in a rec center. I played softball. I played outside. I was on softball teams. As a matter of fact, I was in a drill team, believe it or not. And we would march. They used to have Emancipation Proclamation march down Woodward towards downtown. So I did. I was a girls' drill team, and we would practice in the Brewster Projects. We played a softball on the field. We played because we played all year round. But one thing I remember too, everybody did their homework. They never told us to do homework. We came home and did that homework. Then we do what we want to do. Not what we want to do, but we could go to the center and stuff. But I don't remember people saying, you got to do your homework. We always did our homework without people telling us to do it because the teachers, you had to take it back the next day. So all of us did it together as a, nobody said, well, where are you going? We already know you got to go home, you got to do your homework. Then you can go and do what you want to do, play, and go to Brewster. I love going to Brewster. So that, like I said, I could make mud pies. I had fun in the Brewster projects coming up. No drugs. No, I didn't see that. I never saw that coming up. I didn't know what a drug was, to say the truth.
How did your experience as growing up in the Brewster projects um impact the way you raised your family? Like is it a value or something that you wanted to hold on to as you were you know,
Yeah,
you're an educator or in the work that you do?
yeah. Definitely. When I was in elementary school, I was a future teacher as well as a service girl. So I wanted to be like my teachers. And well, really, my major person was my grandmother. I really wanted to be like my grandmother because she was the head of the family. And when I went to school, they taught you at home, shut up, look at, and so I did what I was supposed to do. So they would choose me and other people who did what you were supposed to do in school to help with the other little kids and things like that. So I like doing that. So I was always wanted to be, let's say, helpful as a kid, helping others, help my nephew, help kids in the neighborhood. I always did that because my grandmother told us we had to do it anyway. If I had an aunt one of my grandmother's brothers' wife lived in the 14 stories off of a Chrysler, and if she needed somebody to go to the store, I had to do that, which was okay. I mean, that's what you did. So, you were always doing things to help your community. That's what I wanted to do. And the boys, they would do the shoe shine. They would go downtown. They had the shoe shine boxes. Um, and then me, I babysat next door, even for my sister, I babysat for my older sister, because you could make some money. So I like doing that. And I was I was connected to my community all the time. I just was always doing something. Because there was always something to do.
Mm, okay. So how did you first learn about the plan to destroy the Black Bottom in Paradise Valley? What was happening in your life when
They still, I played on the Chrysler Freeway. My mother would have killed me, as you know, because you back then you could wear pants, but I was still wearing dresses and stuff. And you tear your dress up, you're gonna get in trouble.
so you're saying
So
when it was being built, you were playing on it.
yeah, I was playing on it. I remember the boulder. I couldn't. I'm gonna go home and say, oh, I played on. No, I with my friends, going with them, and they were building that freeway. I'm telling you, I remember that. So, and like I said, I was little, but my mother would have got me because if I had hurt myself on those mounds of dirt, I would have been in big trouble. So I didn't say anything. But I watched them build that freeway.
Did you know what was happening when it was happening? Like, did you know
They,
this?
I, yeah, but I was more into, like I say, my friends are going to Brewster. That was the hub. And I was looking at, well, they over there. I guess I better go follow them too. So that's how I remember that. Um,
Did you hear
and
your parents talking about it?
yeah, the parents always talked about what's going on. And sometimes you could listen, sometimes you couldn't, because that was grown folks' conversation. So, but like I said, we moved from Alfred across the free with Chrysler, across the street was Hastings, became Chrysler, and just moved straight on down. It was like a straight down move. It was a long block. As a matter of fact, it was two 14-story buildings down, but it was still the same block. It was still the same. You could go straight across before they built the freeway from the projects to Hastings Street,
Mm.
and Alfred, which was good for me because I remember there's a corner store here too. Um, and it was just big, it was a busy area. It was always busy. You were always doing things all the time. So it was like because I was little and when I say little, I mean I say like elementary school age, 4 or 5 on up. They things were always happening, but nothing with no drugs or anything. I'm telling you. More the milkman would come in on the bus. I mean the bus, the truck, the milk truck. And then they had the guys with their the tamale. I remember tamale man. Tamales, people say tamales. I remember that. Um and we would summer, because we didn't have like, air conditioning, we played. And if, as long as you was somebody bigger, your sister, you could play beyond the house, beyond the street lights, because street lights, you couldn't get beyond the street light. But if my sister wanted to go on the playground with her boyfriend, because she's one of 41, I was one of 51, then I was glad, go get the boyfriend so we can go play. They would go to the playground. But I remember the sandbox. We had sandboxes. And I didn't even know how therapeutic it was. I used to like just take off my shoes, put my feet. I didn't know that was therapy. We had monkey bars and swings, and the slide. Yeah, especially like I said, it's actually therapy, but I didn't know that. So just I was like I said, was always excited, and everybody went to the projects. The kids, they didn't want to leave if they didn't live there because it was other kids. People had big families, 10, 9, 8, 7. I was going, we only got 3. What's going on here? So, and like I said, it was more age grade. Then the older I got, I could fit in with the older um, children, young people, because I wanted to be sophisticated like them. But like I said, when I wanted to look like them, the clothes changed, the scenery changed, and the guys would come around. They would sing in the projects. You could hear them singing, things like that, walking around singing. I'm telling you, I loved it. But like I said, the older I got, and then like I said, they had dues where they would get their hair straightened, and that I remember that. Um, and then smoking and stuff that would start. But I was older then too, like middle
Did
school.
the freeway build change the feeling that you had? Like, how did it change the
Yes.
neighborhood?
Okay, so like I said, I was little, so the change was we were still a community because I knew who was next door to me. It was a project. I
Mhm.
knew the neighbors in front, back, side, the school, all of that. But it was no drugs. It was still safe. I could play mud pies and stuff like that. Go to Brewster. Um, I didn't worry about nobody wanting me. Didn't nobody want me. But I think, oh, I know, I saw some werewolf movies at Frankenstein at the council show. Yeah, Frankenstein and werewolf. And I like scary movies too. They used to scare the stuff like, but I still like them. And westerns, so I like those too. So, yeah,
Nice, nice.
since you
Um,
mentioned,
so were some of the challenges like once the freeway was built that your family like you did you have to move out of the Brewsters or did you continue to stay there even after the freeway was built?
yeah,
I guess
well, what happened was my parents had separated when I was about 11, 10, was that six? Yeah. And so then if my daddy wasn't there, he would come through there, then it was just the women. Me, my sister, my older sister had already left out, and my mother and my grandmother. So, but he was the big breadwinner. My grandmother and my mother, my mother worked, like I said, different laundries. And then my grandmother, she wasn't with my grandfather either. So um, and I'm trying to think how my father would give her money too. He would still support. He just wasn't in the house.
Mhm.
So that to me was a big step because he was security, he was safety. My dad was 6'3", big. He's a big guy. Um,
Did he still continue to stay in Black Bottom or had he moved out of the area?
he moved out of the area to the west side. He moved to the west side. Really? So, which I still have that house right now. I have a grandniece and two great grandnieces in the house, three great grandnieces in the house now, two family
Oh,
flat.
that your father moved to.
Yeah, right. So, but my mother didn't move there. My grandmother, his mother didn't either. My mother's mother-in-law, they were tight. So the females stayed together. My daddy left. So
They were like the women of Brewster Place, right?
I really,
Brewster
really
Projects,
true.
right?
That is true. That is really true.
I think of that.
So yeah. But
Hmm.
other than that, I said the biggest change to me was I got to be a teenager. I was there during the rebellion, 1967. I was 16, and I saw that and experienced that tanks in Detroit, National Guard. I remember all that because I was older then. But before that, it was slower. I remember I could go to the a playground and just lay back and watch the clouds. It was slower. It wasn't fast paced to me. It like I said, all of a sudden, actually when I came home from school, I went to Michigan State from 69 to 73. It was it changed. I mean, a lot. Families moved out, other families moved in. When we moved to the Brewster Projects, you had to have a husband and wife. You couldn't be single. And they had criteria. They would do inspections. I remember that too. They would come and check, I say, as a matter of fact, before we got to the projects, they had to come and see where you were coming from
Mm.
before they would let you get into the Brewsters because they had criteria. So, and like I said, we have periodic, like not coming to the house and stuff, but the yard and all that. They checked on that too. I remember that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but it's like I said, we were a city within a city. That's what I liked about Hastings. It's just I was just little, and then Brewster Projects. I was growing up from two on up. But the family,
So when did you finally move out of the Brewster Projects?
I moved over. Actually, I got my own place in 80, but my mama was there, so I had my own. I would go home, because I stayed with my mother until she died. But I had my own place, which I still have now. I'm still in the Black Bottom area. I'm at Lafayette area. That's part of that Black Bottom area too.
Absolutely.
So
So close to 1300, that
yeah,
area.
that's me. That's me.
Oh, you live in 1300?
I live right on Orleans Street,
Oh yeah, I know.
1300, and then I'm Orleans. So I've been there
Okay.
since 80, but I was in the Brewster Projects from um 53 until actually 85. Even though it was 80 when I bought my place, it was 85 because my mama died. That was the end of that. I mean, I would go and visit people, but I wanted to, but when my mother was there, I would stay with my mother, just but
So she never
Absolutely.
left. Your mom never
My
left.
mother never left the Brewster Projects, never. Mm-mm.
Wow. And did
So
the people around her change? How did her
uh,
she
the,
so she was there till 85.
yeah, the drugs culture came. That's what came.
Yeah, because that's
Totally
the
changed
80s, right?
everything. Yeah. Well, before that, because especially because like I said, I know I was watching the guys when the guys were together, they were singing and well, this crowd, they stopped singing. And then I'm going, what's going on? Then you start seeing them come around with the big uh hands, heroin, stuff like that. I mean, some of my family members succumbed to that too.
Mhm.
Um, I was so look, I went to Michigan State. It was more drugs in Michigan State. My daddy would never let me go if he knew. I didn't know, he didn't know. So, but I wanted to make money, help my mom, my grandmother. So I had to graduate too. My sisters both had children, each got pregnant. So that's how I learned how to babysit real good because I babysit for my teachers because of my sisters. But like I said, my older sister got married, and my other sister, she succumbed to the drug culture. So the one born in 49 said, because like I said, I wanted to be how can I say? I wanted to help the kids in the neighborhood, which I did teach us my old middle school, uh, Spain middle school. Because I subbed all around when because I got my bachelor's degree from Michigan State in 73, 69 and 73. And I graduated as a teacher, history and English, major, English minor. So, and that was in 73. So I was studying the projects though. I hadn't bought anything. I mean, who has money when they're in school? And even if you graduate, you still gotta make some money.
Mhm.
So, and like I said, it wasn't, like I said, it was kind of changed because the new culture coming in, you didn't have to have a husband. They changed a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, because like I said, we moved in, you had to have a husband and wife, then they changed it. It it didn't have to be like that. So, and then later, late 70s, early 80s, they come those drugs. And after that, it was a dream that shouldn't have, a nightmare. It became a nightmare because the
Do you
drug.
think that the development of that freeway through there contributed to that? Did it break up? Like what caused the destruction of that?
It
It was drugs.
wasn't one thing, it was a combination. First of all, like I said, steady employment. My daddy had a good job at Ford, and it was steady. I mean, my daddy worked at Ford over 50 years, but that changed too because when the more blacks in the area tried to do better, and then there was always chronic unemployment too. That was like I don't remember people going to jail when I was coming up, but then when I got older, they start going to jail. The young people say, well, "What's going on here? Don't y'all want to? What's happening?" But the job market, I noticed in the 80s had kind of like dried up for Black people because the we call it the car companies, they started laying people off. Those were the Reagan years too. I remember that, the Reagan years. Before that, you could always get a job. Yeah, like I said, the guys will hustle, but then the steady job, when you're older, you want a good job. Those were um, not there like they should be. But the drugs were there and the prison was there. So the prison system had started to evolve, the business part of it. My daddy's sister, she said that they could hear the prisoners um, when they were down. She remembers down south more than my daddy because she was 8 when she came up here. He was 3, and she said she could remember the guys on the chain gang. She remembered that, and she was born 1918.
Wow.
So I remember, yeah, listening to some of the stuff they were talking about. But the other thing, like I said, I did like the community, like I said, they whip your butt if you didn't do right. I mean, they just did. And it was not an issue. They were protective service and they actually protected us. And nobody was put in the hospital and all that. No. but you were not a fool. You did what grown people told you to do.
Exactly.
So I do remember that. So other than that, like I said, my teachers, I wanted to be like a teacher, and I became a teacher. And then and by me helping people, I became a social worker, so I got the social work, master's teaching master. I got a PhD too in human services because I like helping people.
So
So
I should be referring to you as Dr. Crawford.
no,
Apologies.
really, I mean, that's not important. What's important is that I still help the people. I work with the seniors now. I work with the kids from 73 until 2010. That was my first retirement. And then I went back. That was a public schools, school social work teacher, and summer school. I did all that. I even mentored too. So then in 2012, I came to the job I'm at now, working with seniors in Highland Park. So from the little ones to the older ones, but I'm still helping. That's my point.
You
And I'm
said
still
you're in Highland Park now.
yeah, Highland Park. I've been here since 2012 with the
Nice.
seniors in a co-op. HUD housing. I grew up in HUD housing. So I'm working HUD housing. So
I love,
interesting.
I love that.
Mhm.
So what should be reparations for the destruction of Black Bottom? Like they ran the freeway through there,
Yes, they
um,
do.
and people were damaged by that. Like the Brewster still stood. What do you
Mhm.
think that Black Detroiters, what should be their reparations for that injury? What do you think?
I think it's not one thing. It's definitely financial because the businesses had to leave. When your business leaves, you got to follow the business. You got to follow that business. Yeah, the Eastern Market was there, but you had stores and cleaners and other businesses that it was a thriving community. And they went, whoa, really? But this now wasn't just Detroit. This happened all over the whole country. Anywhere they said, you want to find a Black community, find the freeway. You'll find it. Anywhere you want to find a Black community, follow the
There.
freeway. So they let you know we have to be prosperous and not so the money definitely got integrated quickly, but the um, barriers to being equal, no. Still in 2024, no. Still, it's no, no.
So
Including,
what would be the repair for that? Well,
look,
financial is one you said, but what else?
well, of course, hey, you did not look the schools. Well, your education is vital. I mean, that's how you also get better. So education, that should, hey, did we ask to be enslaved or put in place we shouldn't be? No. And they had, cut off. You can't come here. If you do, you got to fight. You got to be the first one. And then they did the neighborhood. My daddy got a house because the realtors say, here they come, Black folks. Here come the Black people. And they would parade Black people up and down those areas where they had white population. And then the white people, oh, we got to go. So, I mean, things like that. That was dirty. And then you didn't have any money anyway. Then they jacked the prices up. Just, I mean, A through Z, we got it. Like health, look, health, education, welfare, all that. And the disparities with the incomes, because you're gonna get the least desirable. Even in 2024, which is scary, Blacks in Detroit, they say, well, who has the worst jobs? Of course, Black people do, but you all been there a long time. I know, but we control absolutely nothing per se. I mean, we control us, but the move-ins was not Black people. It was the move-outs kids that came back to Detroit who are here now. And then the prices raised, but your salary is not going up with that. So I'm saying it's health, education, and welfare, all of the above, not one thing. So school free, um, housing, supplement. You subsidize them. My daddy was in World War II. He went to Japan. 44 to 46. I got when he died. I had I got his DD something papers they call them. I think DD 10 or something. But anyway, um, and he still can get a GI Bill because they didn't give it to you. You go fight overseas, nobody bothering you. Japanese not bothering the projects. But you can go fight it, but you can't when you come back and get the not you, no, not you. You just help us win the war. You can help us. You can't move over there. You stay there. So that's what I'm saying. That too. So discrimination, still, and they still have cases where they don't win. So all of that is still here.
Hmm.
In 2021, 22, 23, it's still here.
We're a quarter of a century into a new millennia,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's
And
still here.
25 years
I'm
into a
going with
new.
this stop. No, they won't
I
stop.
know.
Won't
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
So, and then like I said, me babysitting so much, my sisters turned me off. Let me tell you why I say that. I stayed with my mother and grandmother. Both my sisters left with a kid in the Brewster Projects. The one that got married, that kid left, but the other one didn't. So the only reason why I was able not to be with him forever is because I went to Michigan State and stayed on campus for 4 years. When I came back, I stayed with my mother, but I still bought my own place in 80. So, but I still was in the projects because he was there, my grandmother was there, my mother was there. I mean, that's just how it was. So I knew
Like,
I don't want to stay forever, but I went on the about the place I'm at now on Orleans. So
nice.
yeah.
Um, how do you, I'm going to ask some reflection questions as we start to wind down the conversation. Um, how do you want to be remembered?
My legacy,
Yeah.
Auntie helped everybody. I helped generations of kids. My sisters, like I said, so I was a good babysitter because it started at home. And then I got babysit next door, babysitting my teachers, um, and just helping, being how can I say, a helper for those who needed help. That's what I'm still doing. I did the kids, now I'm doing the seniors. Food stamps, Medicaid, Medicare, transportation. I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it is always a joy to meet somebody who lives to their own constitution. And I can hear that. Like it sounds like that's who you were when we started this conversation. That's who you were in the beginning, and that's who you continue to be.
yeah, I mean, that's all I know how to do is help. I don't know what else to do.
Mhm.
So I'm still working, 73, still working, 73, but it's okay. My health is good, still helping the girls in school, they in college. So those my great grandnieces. Um, that's what I do. I just I continue to help, which is okay.
Good. What is most important for future generations to remember about Black Bottom or Paradise Valley for about Black Bottom?
That it was again a hub for the community to stay together, to grow together, and to do business with each other together, and still letting people come in because we had Asian laundry in the Brewster Projects on Bobian all the time. I mean, and the Asians knew because they would always come where Black people were at for business. So we didn't exclude anybody. We had a Jewish guy who did the corner stores. We had how can I say Chaldeans who did the other corner store. I'm telling you, but we always were inclusive. We let you come. You can do business with us. I mean, that's just how I grew up like that. You could come, treat people right, decent. I mean, nothing's perfect, but those drugs tore us up. I'm gonna tell you, the drugs tore us up, and our businesses got messed up. That tore us up. It just because the segregation made you have a business. Because where else you gonna go?
I get that.
Again, they said, "Oh no, you all want to be integrated." We do. What what got integrated? The money. Money was always integrated.
Right.
So it's still like that now.
Mhm.
You got some money, you're gonna be integrated with some money. But legacy wise, just knowing that you have I come from generations of people who had to make the most out of nothing, no bootstraps, so you couldn't pull yourself up, but you had to think and thinking, thinking. And they made us think before we acted. That was the other thing. Listen, two eyes, two ears, one mouth. Listen better than you talk. Look around. That's how I was raised. Um, instead of grown folks conversation. But I mean, that's just, he gave us two eyes, he gave us two ears, one mouth. Listen, I mean, you're learning. I'm still learning, which is good. But I like that. I thought my parents, they had a PhD in raising me and the family, because all of them did, all the parents did. Because they didn't take no stuff and you didn't give it to them. The
Hmm.
grown-ups ruled. They just ruled.
Hmm.
So, and we accepted that too.
That's
But
true.
the problem became, oh, well, they don't have to do that, but they are not you. They can do, but they are not you. That's where we have to understand. They are not you. Privilege, you don't have any. What privilege? No, you don't have any privilege. You better know it and you better show it. So, and you better help somebody. Each one teach one and pull somebody else up. So that's my legacy. Help, you're gonna start with the family because that's where you are in the beginning, and you branch out with your neighbors, community. You help and you treat everybody right. I mean, I don't care, just treat them right.
That's good.
Do the right thing. You know what's right and wrong. You don't hurt people. So that's how, like I said, no angels, I mean, no wings nowhere, but I always helping. Like I said, that is how I do it. And that's what I'm going to do. That's what I always like doing. It's nothing else I want to do.
That's good.
Mhm.
Why is it important for the history of Black Bottom to be preserved and passed on to future generations? Why do you think that's important?
Because they'll know that even though the odds are against you, as usual in America, you keep on rising. So what? I'm sorry. This just they do it on purpose, and they pretend, you're always chasing that carrot on the horse or wherever, the mule, and you never bite it, but you still rise. You're gonna still rise. I was glad my teachers, I said, I want to be like my teacher. I had, teachers from the South. They made a lot of teachers that came from the South retake classes where they could teach in Detroit public schools. I didn't know that,
Wow.
but that's what they do. And then you lived here all your life, want a job, and next thing you know, you don't have a job. That's what I was gonna say. In Detroit, of course, you say, well, we know the jobs that are least paid are blacks, but the other have the best jobs and the worst jobs. Then we get in there. It's like, what? So that's why the income is so low here.
Right,
Because
right.
you get the leftovers and you in your own city. What?
Hmm.
That's how it is. That's it's still like that.
Hmm.
Scary. So it's scary, but you can, no matter how scary it is, you can still help somebody. That's my point.
Okay.
Make a way out of no way. You
So
know,
this is Diane Crawford, Dr. Diane Crawford's oral history. Is there anything else that you want to get on the record that we didn't touch on?
it's not gonna be perfect anywhere, but you do your best, right from wrong. And he will always help you because we still here.
That's right.
He's
That's
gonna
right.
always help you. You got to help him do the
That's
right
right.
thing.
That's right. Well,
Mhm.
thank
Thank
I'm
you.
going to end the recording and just wrap up. So let me do
Mhm.
that. Thank you so much. I could just listen to you forever.
Mhm.